Okay, so I made a pretty good amount of progress on this 2172 xtorq hybrid. So it's got a 390 or 2188 cylinder on it that I had bored out the 56 millimeter and had a sleeve put in it. So it'll run a 661 piston, and I don't have to deal with messing with swapping the connecting rod. That's a lot harder to do than what you think to try to get it back to running true. With the tools that I have, it was easy to just press it apart, but getting it back to true and running no run out on each side, that took several hours to do, since I didn't really know what I was doing. But let's go over what I've accomplished today. I just got this filter on here just for mock-up. It's actually on here backwards just so it would sit for a nice thumbnail picture. But this is the filter I'm going to run on it. I also will try it, once I get it going and it's running, I'll try with the same bar and chain, everything with the stock filter, so that you can run, this cover here, low top cover. I think the low tops look the best. But we'll try with both, see how it does. Obviously, the Redbeard filter, that's who made this filter right here, is Redbeard 3D printed piece here. I think it's a lot higher flowing than the stock one. This is the stock one here. Not really good. It's divided, so we'll try it with the Redbeard. Also try it with the other one when I get it fully going. All right, so that's a little bit about that. Let's go over what I've done. So I've got the exhaust roughed in. I've got the intake roughed in enough so that I can run the epoxy in here tonight. Mix that up, throw that in there tonight so that it sets up in the next 2 days. I'm going to let it cure for 2 days, and then I'll finish the port work one night this week, and hopefully this weekend I'll be running it. So what do you have to do to get a 390 cylinder to fit on a 372 chassis is you got to move the bolt holes in here. You got to do a little bit of grinding. I don't know if you can see a little bit of grinding there on the fins. I don't know if you can see that or not. A little bit of grinding on the fins there. And I trimmed this here back right here, this fin right here. I trimmed it back so that this top cover sits on here, flush right there, right? Did that, and then I also cut all the plastic out of here. I just trimmed it out with a side cutters. That's all you need to do that. No need to make a mess with your Dremel. So all the ports are roughed in. I just roughed them in without a base gasket. I took 27 thousandths off the cylinder base itself, just to make sure it's a truly flat surface. And then I wanted to run a gasket on this setup. So I got a 372 gasket that I trimmed so that it fits on this 56 millimeter, bore itself. And then I trimmed it so that it matches the transfers better. I didn't do any lower transfer work. I don't feel like that gets you any gains. And I didn't enlarge the transfers at all. I just kept them the stock size as best that I could, given that you're grinding, kind of blind. I was using this light right here, sitting right here, and I was grinding right here so I could see what I was doing. It'd be best if I was doing it outside, but it's pretty late now, so was just doing it with this light. But you got to be able to see good. So yeah, so got to put the JB weld in here tonight, let it set up for 2 days. Then I'm going to finish the port work. Then I'm going to throw it together. And we'll probably run it with the stock coil just to start with. If it's a real runner, then I'll invest more money and put some more, upgraded parts on it to try to get, the max power out of it, I know that having the unlimited coil makes it easier to tune, but we'll go with what we got here until I prove that it's a good running saw. My other one, it ran okay. I mean, it had probably as much power as my Farmer Tech, like 440 hybrid or whatever. I've got a couple videos of me cutting with this one, but it wasn't anything like what I was expecting, given that it was like 86 cc's with the 55. I think it's like 88 or something like that with the 56. You can do the math if you're curious about that. So the other thing that I have to do is I have to trim the rest of this plastic right here. Got to trim all this here out so that the intake boot will fit in there. I got to order a new intake boot. Just going to get a aftermarket one. I don't need OEM with a part that's that easy to replace. If it leaks, I'll just put another one on. kind of thing. And now, so an important thing to notice here is look at the position of this impulse line. You see how it's got that 90, those two 90s, and it kind of offsets it over past this bolt hole. Now look at how it's positioned on the Farmer Tech. So this is a 372 xtorq Farmer Tech right here. But you can see that it's just a straight up. And the bolt hole is kind of the position of the other one. So you have a lot more room. This here was kind of getting pinched. I think that's one reason why I didn't run that good, because it wasn't getting a good impulse pulse, to the carburetor. So I'm hoping that, with this chassis, it'll be better. Another upgrade that I plan to do, if this is a good runner, is I'm going to put a xtorq 372 orange xtorq OEM handle on it, so that I can run my full wrap handlebar, because the Jonsered tank handle here has a different angle right here and a different spacing. So I'm just going to run a 372 xtorq handle. If it'll accept dye, I'll dye it black. I'll mix up a thing of dye and dye all the other parts that I want to make black, probably like that 400C top cover, and I don't know, probably the 461 top cover as well. So I kind of like the orange and black, or I guess black and white saw versus orange and black, or orange and white saw, myself personally. But if you're going to mix up a batch and do it, you might as well do a couple parts, because it'll do several. So yeah, that's kind of a little update on this one. I would say that I should have this done by the end of the week, and then I'm going to chainsaw mill this weekend. Got everything ready chainsaw mill wise to do it. I just need to make a little mounting jig so I can mount my ladder on the logs. And then what had happened was the lines on my friend's granddad's tractor busted, and the bucket wouldn't lift. So we figured, hey, we better stop, because we couldn't even use the tractor because the bucket was dragging on the ground. Couldn't even lift it. So that's just stuck in his yard till he gets new lines to fix that and puts more fluid in it. So yeah, we're gonna chainsaw mill next weekend. My new 880, now that I've got some real test cuts on it, I mean, it pulls a 41-inch bar, no problem, with the super high exhaust roof. So I should have no issue doing some chainsaw milling with it. The question is how long will it survive? I made the exhaust roof even higher on this one with my piston chamfer. So I had a chamfer on the piston, on the exhaust side. I don't know. I guess this would be the exhaust side of this piston. But I just put a chamfer here so the exhaust opens sooner. And I just left the piston that was in it for, that build. But hopefully with the little bit higher exhaust roof, that rod bearing will last a little longer on the second one. Now, what I will do on my original Farmer Tech right here, Farmer Tech 880, is I'm going to put an OEM crankshaft in this one. Split the case, put an OEM crankshaft in it, and then I should have one bulletproof 880. I pulled all the new parts off of my original, or I pulled all the new parts off my second one and put them in a box, and then those are going to go on this saw here. So I have a fully super nice 880 is kind of what I was thinking. But my Farmer Tech 880 also has a modified carburetor on it too. So I think that definitely helps with the power output, and getting more fuel, especially for millings. That's why I threw that on there as well. So yeah, so pretty excited to see if this is going to work. I'm going to shoot for like 28 degrees of blowdown. We got a pretty moderate intake duration at 76 degrees is where I'm going to put the intake. It's at 76. I'm going to put the exhaust at like 98. And the transfers will open at 126. We'll try it there, and if that's not enough, I'll just raise the exhaust up to 96 and try it again. I've heard that you need more blowdown with a bigger cylinder on your saw than what you do without, but if I don't like how it runs, I'll go back in here and modify it a little bit more. It's not that big of a deal when most of the work is already done, and you're working with an OEM chassis here, so you don't have as many issues as you have with like the aftermarket Farmer Tech chassis. Now remember, the 372s were the first These 3072s were the first saws that they cloned, and I don't think they ever updated these molds because the quality of this here saw is poor. And I would assume that the quality on the 660, still 660 Farmer Tech clone is the same, because those are the first two that they ever made. And it seems that every other saw that I've seen that's been a more recent mold making process to replicate what the OEM did has been a lot better. Like both my Farmer Tech 440 and 460 run them all day, no issue. And that 395, 395, the quality wasn't quite as good as the still ones, but it was still pretty good. I think it was good enough to run every day. The trigger worked good. That's the main thing with this one, was the trigger does not work very good, which is annoying. You can see it kind of binds up right there. And I put this little piece of foam in there to try to eliminate that to an extent. It helps, but it does not fix the problem. So that's why that one's going to get an OEM tank handle if it's a good runner, and it's going to go full wrap. The reason I like the full wrap is so that I don't have to move my body as much. When I'm making kind of weird or odd cuts, cutting limbs off and stuff, you just don't have to move your body as much. So you increase your efficiency, and I think that you're more safe when you can, grab the saw over here, switch hands, whatever you got to do to cut that limb, to keep your body out of the line of the bar coming back here. That's kind of your main thing that you're doing when you're operating a chainsaw, is you are keeping, if that bar was to come back, not to be in line with your body. So every time you see me running the saw, I have the saw position kind of on my hip down here, and the bar would come back up, away from me, so to speak. I don't need to be looking down at the tip of the bar straight on to see where the tip is. I can just feel where it is. So yeah, so that's a little update on this one. Once this saw is done, I'm going to jump into this 400C. Machine work's already done. I just need to do the porting, cut the chamber, and get that thrown back together. We'll see if I remember how to put it together. I might have to peek at the exploded view or assembly diagram, whatever, so I can get it put back together right. And honestly, I think since this is such a much more expensive saw, I'll probably do that for, I guess that's an 044 10mm saw up there. But I also cut the cylinder base when I did this one, because I had the mander already set up to do 50mm cylinders. I just cut the base on that one. That one's got a new Meteor 044 10mm piston in it. So I'll probably do that one first, and that one I probably will sell. I'll clean up, because someone was really cutting with a dull chain is what it looks like to me. You don't get that kind of build up running a good sharp chain. So the cylinder looked fine. I'm throwing a new piston in it, so I feel like that would be better, just better to throw a new piston in it when you're gonna do the port work and all that. Get a new set of rings on there as well. So yeah, probably 440 next, 400C, and then probably put this 460 back together as well. It seems that, like, I think I've said this before, but the more saws that I have that I can already have barred and chained up, that when I sharpen, I'll just do a full day of sharpening where I sharpen them all. And, I don't play any favorites. I mean, obviously I have a couple favorites, but I don't play favorites with what saw I'm going to choose. I just need one that's sharp, when I'm ready to cut. So yeah, that's a little update on what's going on. I've kind of got myself back into the swing of modifying saws here, so that's kind of the to-do list. I think that 661 up there, I'm going to send a new cylinder I've got for that to what are those people, 309 Machine. I'm trying to think of the name. I'm going to send a cylinder just to them, to 309 Machine, to have them do it. I did a 661 build, and I don't know, I just didn't have the numbers right, so I'm just going to buy just a cylinder from them and put it on that saw itself there, and see how that works. Someday I would like to, I don't know if the 3D printing quality is good enough yet to do like an aluminum alloy 3D print of a cylinder that, 661 cylinder, but we modify it so it's pretty much already imported form. You know, I built a cab model of it, and I guess you send them an STL file and they can 3D print a cylinder for you. And I need to send it to someone to have a sleeve put in as well, but it'd be cool to have a 60 millimeter 661. You know, 60 millimeter bore, 38 mil stroke. I don't know how many cc's that'd be, but I feel like that'd be pretty cool to experiment with that. I don't know what the cost would be. I'd have to talk to the people who are doing the printing and see if they think that it'll even hold up. I don't know if a 3D printed metal would hold up. You know, I know obviously I'd have a sleeve, a cast iron sleeve put in it, but will that metal actually hold up? I got to look at the properties and all that. That's a big project for maybe this winter or something like that, to investigate. And then if that worked, probably do the same thing with that 461. I just would need to find the right piston. Probably would do a 3120 piston for that 661, because I think they've got the same pin to crown height. For the 461, I don't know, it'll be difficult to probably source the right piston to do it and what diameter that I would do it. But I think that a 461 and a 661 big bore would be pretty cool to have. You know, I'm really chasing that max power to weight ratio, because I could use more power on all my saws, so to speak. I mean, I've got some good running saws, but the more power I've got, the more fun it is to run, and you know, the faster you're going to get the wood cut. So I think that's pretty much it for this one. Thanks for watching.